Hello everybody, I'm here with Dr. Sonia Gomes'e from Brazil. Sonia is a worldwide known psychologist. She travels around the world as an SE advanced teacher and trainer, and she developed the SOMA Embodiment training, which is based on SE and different other backgrounds. And we want to talk now a little bit about her concept of SOMA Embodiment and what SOMA Embodiment is and for what embodiment is useful and how it helps in the field of trauma. Thank you, Sonia, that you have time now. And yeah, maybe you can tell the people a little bit what embodiment in general is first.
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're
so nice from you. So for me to have that opportunity to tell people. But embodiment is a model from the therapist in order to work with traumatic people, traumatized people. In general, I say for you to work with traumatized people, you really needed to give back first the human value back to them. So if you're working with somebody, putting so much differentiation between the different level between you and the client, create a little bit some kind of differentiation, you know.
Yeah.
And for me, is the first thing, you know, first skill that the therapist needed to get is embodiment.
Okay.
In reality, is the consciousness, body consciousness about yourself.
Yeah.
You know, how you experience a live body at the present moment.
Okay.
How you can really be present and create the right and properly environment in order to transform trauma. So first of all, we needed to work into body. Based on that, I decided to go deeper and deeper in somatic experiencing in my own process. And as I'm doing a lot of sessions, teachings, students, clients, they are our masters, actually.
Yeah.
And for me, SOMA is a result of a lot of clinical personal experience and a combination of integration between so wonderful masters that I have learned, that I have been studied with them, you know.
And beside Peter Levine from SE, what are the masters in the back of the SOMA concept?
So this always starts from deep questions. First of all, about around 2000, I met Hubert Godard, that master in analysis movements. He's a dancer from France. He's very known in rolling in movement. I was on his class that time, and I was so connected that time in chronic pain because I work with a lot of chronic pain patients. And he said that if you see in general, 80% of clients that present injury, lesion, fixations, inhibitions, he said that statement that really caught my attention. He said, 80% is a result of lack of perception. Wow. And the 20% indeed is the injury, wound, or inhibition. Wow. And this really, really upside me down. Wow. And this followed with me from years, and he brought the concept of more clearly by his perspective about tonic function, and I started to really to put more interested on that. Another thing that is really bothered me for many years is for many people say, oh, somatic experience does not work with developmental trauma. Yeah. But I never accept that. Because always, every time that I was working, or still today, I work with somatic experience in order to transform trauma, always there is emotional component. And we need to know how to work with emotion in order to transform trauma. There is no way.
Yeah.
And when we access the emotional dysregulation in the client, they regressed for any stage of development.
Yeah.
So this was my personal experience during all these days. So as much as we access any emotional shock trauma, for example, or we access the core of emotion, client regressed.
Yeah.
So this started to call my attention all the time. How I gonna support my client in any need that he brings that is related to that emotional fragmentation that he present at the session.
Okay. Yeah.
So this was my second thing that started to really to call my attention.
Yeah.
One day I was following Peter, because I have been followed Peter Levine all over for many years. And that time specifically, we are talking about developmental trauma, and I was asking about what is going on, you know, related to attachment. Why people start to get out, you know, and develop so many attachment theories. And people work a lot with theories. Theories is good, it's very important as a territory to give it to you a reference to work. And I asked about that to him, and he said, Sonia, ultimately every trauma there is attachment topic.
Yeah.
Every trauma.
Yeah.
And this was another moment that I'm upside down.
Yeah.
So I start my journey with this.
Mini Satori.
Yeah. And so I have a Peter Levine as my big master that helped me and helps SOMA to be like a big river.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, SE, somatic experiencing, is the backbone of all trauma therapists.
Yeah.
So I have that as a mainstream to my work, and I add everything that I really believe and trust.
Yeah.
So, and I work with somatic experiencing, and I'm a roofer.
Yeah.
So I got graduation more than 30 years ago. And the concept of alignment, the concept of Dr. Ida Rolf related to the gravity field, also always was based on me.
Yeah.
Since when I finished somatic experiencing, every moment that client got in freeze response, I didn't know what to do. Of course, I come back to the orienting, you know, bring here and now, grounding, organize the body related to the gravity. So this always was in my work.
Okay.
So I started to be very different from normally regular SE because I always included in my being, my embodiment.
The body.
Yeah. Another person that really called my attention very much is Stephen Porges, and he's an amazing human being, great work that he's done in life, especially also with his wife, Sue Carter, that is really famous woman that work a lot with oxytocin together.
Yeah. She did the research, huh?
Many, more than 200, almost more than 300 actually.
Oh, wow.
She's very famous. And I had the opportunity to be very close to them. And Peter Levine imported for the first time polyvagal theory for our clinical approach, psychotherapy approach.
Do you know, still know when it was?
Oh, Peter started to do this kind of talking and exploring parasympathetic nervous system in order to understand the autonomic nervous system behavior in about the end of 70s. So when he did his dissertation in 1976, and he met Stephen Porges, and they started to talk, and Peter Levine introduced to Dr. Porges the topic of trauma, because that time he was not using.
He wasn't aware that.
He was not aware about how important would be autonomic nervous system from his proposal to trauma.
For trauma therapists.
Trauma therapists. So somatic experiencing, you know, baptized polyvagal theory. Both of them learned so much together, and after many years, even that we graduated in SE, we still was learning. Actually, we are learning. So the basic thing is using soma therapy. I have a notion and I have an indicator where the nervous system, where the body is stuck related to the nervous system.
Okay.
If the client has, you know, access the trauma memory, first of all, they start to narrate, it means explicit memory. As they started to narrate, talk a little bit, they can move, because memory goes very volatile, very quick. They shift constantly from explicit memory, goes to emotional memory, and maybe can access implicit memory. So as therapists, we really need to know where we are. Where are we, you know?
In your body.
Yes, in the body. So we needed to learn how to do very quick pendulations in order to disengage from the dorsal vagal system. It means from where client is presenting freeze response.
I just had the impulse when I said in your body, when you regulate yourself, it also co-regulates the other.
Definitely. So it means the therapist must be very self-regulated. Has to be present in order to create the healing environment, to resonate with client. Client must feel comfortable. Client must feel safe. So as we use the concept of body organization related to the space, we are working very fast related to help client to feel safe to access body stability. Because this is a very important SE skills principle that you needed to take person to orient state. If you don't know where you are, where the body is, you don't have a direction to go. Differentiation from down to up, that is the first differentiation that the newborn baby needed to learn. You know, and you see, the first thing that the gravity they needed to develop is the grabs from hands and feet. So later on we start to develop front and back, side to side, you know, and developing contralaterality, pushing and pulling.
So three-dimensional space.
So, and this is what we apply for trauma healing. Not only to bring embodiment, but through embodiment, the therapist embodiment, supporting client, you know, building up the capacity of containment. They're going to access more embodiment and well-being as much they access coherence. It means system and subsystems, they start to work in integration.
Perfect. This is what the trauma disturbed and fragmented. And so you collect the pieces together, and when the physical and the orientation, everything, hapticity is back, you can start properly working on the mind or the psyche.
Everything comes from bottom to up. That is the concept. And for me, there is not only one trauma therapy that is efficacious or efficient. We needed to collect. We needed to put together so much support and a lot of knowledge that comes from different generations and traditions.
Yeah, perfect.
So I think that the update is how you're going to create integration to help your client.
Yeah.
Because every client, every session is unique.
Yes.
You know, every moment that you work with the client and start a session, this is a box of surprise.
Yeah. Hope not a box of Pandora.
Maybe sometimes open, and you need to know how to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah.
This is my way to see this.
What is your hope for the future of psychology and trauma therapy, maybe? Can you say that as a last sentence?
So I really hope that psychology trainings, you know, change quick the curriculum, because this make a lot of difference.
Yeah.
We needed to really understand better how our work functions.
Yeah.
So we needed to really pay attention that we have a self-observer. We can observe our body. Our, you know, self-perception can help the body to live longer. So if you really take care about the body is amazing, spectacular, magnificence, realization from our Creator. So we born with all that capacity to recover ourselves. You know, we are able to face any challenge. That's why exists trauma in the world. That is a fact of life for us to learn from these challenges that life brings to us, diseases or shock, traumas, those kind of things. We needed to really understand that according you touch, according you relate, according you support organism, they can access, evoke the innate intelligence. We needed to trust in that. We needed to be more hopeful, and psychologists needed to be more embodied and help more, because there are so much trauma, much suffering. We needed to be more capable to touch, to talk, to engage with our clients, not as someone separate from us. You know, we needed to help them to feel themselves that they are able to help themselves as well. So we needed to change the view of what we project in our clients if you don't work in your own traumas. Therapists, psychotherapists, people that work with trauma have to work on the inner problem, inner difficulties, in the trauma. We don't know what is body states. If you don't know how to navigate into body to access our interoceptors, you know, receptors that contain our emotions, that contain our sensations, we needed to really send a message to our brain, to the heart, how and what we feel. So if you don't know how to identify the right emotion you are experiencing, you can't have the right action. So this is a lot of confusion, a lot of dissociation and fragmentation between sensations and emotions. So everything from outer environment and even from our inner environment can affect us. But affect is not emotion. So we needed to really to create capacity to move what affect us in order to promote health, you know, system. How can we help our body to feel more, you know, healthy? So I think that everything comes, especially from I'm a psychologist, and I learn much more after maybe 20 years after graduating psychology. And I have learned more from others' approach, what psychology, what emotion is, you know.
You mean then in the study?
Then I study in the curriculum of university.
I understand.
Yeah, it's so important for us to be more humble, to really to be able to be authentic. People started to reproduce what they learn. So for us to help somebody, first you need to help ourselves to feel good, you know, to have self-esteem, to access our authenticity, you know. Don't forget our backgrounds, you know. Everybody has trauma, more or less. So we needed to really to be able to be present what is good and what is not good in us. So there is bad and good things in life. So this is the first principle that you need to learn. We are not better than nobody else.
Of course.
So we really need to serve our clients. In order to serve our clients, for them to really to be more themselves, first of all we need to be ourselves. You know, we needed to be able to someday, somehow, to be owner of our own body. So this is a process that you need to learn, that you need to take a decision to be mature, mature in our emotions, mature in order to feel, you know, what we feel and deal with that. Not put under the carpet and continuating, propagating transgenerational trauma. This is what happened.
What is happening all the time?
All the time is like that. Family are not, parents actually, they are not prepared to have children in family. They don't know how to self-regulate. You know,
it's true.
This is a new concept that we need to bring. So that's why if you ask me again about what is the future of psychotherapy, everybody need to know what is self-regulation. How you can help ourselves to be more stable.
And what he or she is carrying around. And how it is floating you.
So I think that is, I don't know if I answer your questions, but this is, in general, is what I feel.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the short chat with Sonia. Maybe we will have another one another time.
Probably, but this is what I would like to share in that short time that we have.
Thank you. And
thank you very much.
If you are interested in SOMA, Sonia is traveling the whole world nearly around and giving intros in SOMA and doing the SOMA training in different countries. And you can check her homepage, I link it under the video. If you like the video, please like the video, subscribe the channel and share the video in social media. Best wishes from Zurich, from Jörg Fuhrmann and Dr. Sonia Gomes'e.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Take care of you.